Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 7 of my tutorial on how to make Android apps. Today I'm going to show you exactly from step 1, exactly how I make Android apps. What we're going to do is we're going to make a conversion app, and I'm going to show it to you here in a second, where I'm also going to cover spinners, relative layouts, grid layouts, XML arrays, and a whole bunch more. So I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Okay, so the only thing I did to prepare for this tutorial is to lay this out. This is basically what the app's going to look like, hopefully, whenever we finish it up. And what I'm going to be doing is bouncing you step by step through the use case where I basically document what I want the app to do, and then over into the code, and then back to the use case and into the code. The use case is normally what I have laying in front of me whenever I make tutorials that you guys see. But I've never really shown you what my use cases look like or how I set them up. So this time, I'm going to do it. So let's go over and do it right now. Okay, so basically what I start off with is just over in a text editor, and the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to document the simple actions of making this work. So I'm going to come in here and just say, okay, the user is going to enter a number they want converted into an edit text, and that's going to be start 1. And the second thing that's going to happen is they are going to change, and I'm going to put this in the link in the tutorial, or underneath in the description, so you'll be able to get this if you want to look at it. Then they're going to change the spinner to the unit of measure to convert from, and then the third thing is the other conversion types all show their new measurement version of that unit amount. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. This is the simple actions that my app is going to perform. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to really go into detail, and I do this every single time. I make these as detailed as humanly possible, and I try to catch every single thing I'm ever going to want to do with these guys. And I'm going to just type out a couple things, and then I'm going to jump into code just so I don't bore you. So what do I need to do? Well, the very first thing I want to do is what I normally always do. I need to create the layout in Activity Main. And then I can go into a little bit more detail. Since this all applies to Activity Main, I could say that I want to use a relative. There's no planning going on. I'm just doing this out of my head right now. I just wanted to see or show you guys my process. So I'm going to use a relative layout for a label, and I'm going to put the text in the side of there, convert from, and an edit text, and a spinner. Those are going to be the drop down sort of window. That's what a spinner is. So those are the things that I'm going to create. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a grid layout for the bottom that is going to contain 2 columns and 6 rows. And that's where all of the other different units of measure are going to go. And then I'm going to make the grid layout blue color, and I'm going to use the units. I already know this, I planned this part out, what units I was going to use. So I'm going to have teaspoons, tablespoons, cups, ounces, pints, quarts, gallons, pounds, milliliters, liters, milligrams, and kilograms. So that's what I got to do inside of the Activity Main. So now I'm going to jump over in Android Studio and start making this thing. And here we are, and I'm going to go New Project. And this is the brand new Android 0.8. I covered this in the last part of the tutorial. And I'm just going to keep this simple. I'm just going to call this conversion. And New Think Tank's my domain. I'm going to leave that in there. I'm going to leave this exactly where it is. Come over here and click on Next. And this is going to open up. We're just going to use the 15 as our minimum as it is asking us to do. And then I'm going to click on Next. And then here I'm just going to use blank activity again. Not going to do anything with fragments until I've covered fragments in detail. Click on Next. And let's just say the activity main, I'm going to actually call it main activity. This is the Java file. I'm going to leave this activity main there for our XML layout. And for our title, I'm just going to go conversion. And then click finish. And Android Studio is going to build that for me. And here it is, and we are inside of Activity Main, so that's good. That's what we are going to work on first. And that's normally what I always work on first. So let's move this over here, get this out of the way so you can see everything. One thing I always do first, though, is I come inside of this guy, and I go to Build Gradle, just to make sure everything's set up right. And this is set for 20. I'm going to set this to 19, change this. so that I don't have any emulator problems. That's the reason why I'm doing this right now. And as soon as Android Studio I'm going to change this to 19, and target is going to be 19. Minimum version's 15, that's perfectly fine, and everything else looks like it is going to be perfectly fine as well. So, and then I'm going to come over here and go sync now, and Gradle was able to properly build. Okay, so now we can close that and get into activity main. Now I said I wanted to use a relative layout, and match parent's going to be perfectly fine here. Now all these things look pretty good, I guess, and the context here for main activity is correct, so we're just going to leave that be exactly the way it is. Now I'm going to get involved with my text view, which is right there. It's real blurry, I know you can't see it. So wrap content is going to be perfectly fine because I want to have everything go horizontally from left to right. If you don't remember, this is what we want our application to look like, so that's why we have wrap content. We're going to go left to right like that. I am going to change the text in here though, just like we had over there, to convert from, and then of course we come over here to our little light bulb, extract string resource, and then I have to give this a name. I'm going to call this convert from text. Come down here, click OK. So there that is. I can also switch over into the design view, of course, and there's convert from. I can highlight that. Come over here for text appearance. You can edit all this in multiple different ways. I could have drug this out, but I'm just going to use what's here. So for text appearance, click inside of there, question mark, Android TR, and then we can go text appearance large, and you can see now it's much bigger. And I'd also like to come over here and go and edit the margin right, and just put that right there, and I'm going to say 20 dp so that there's a little bit of margin between this and the editable text box we have right now, and everything's pretty much fine there. So what I'm going to do now is get an editable text box. So I'm going to come over here and grab this plain text right there, or actually, you know what, we're going to be using a number with decimal places, so grab this guy right here. I'm going to have to drop it there so you guys can see it, and then I'm going to have to grab it and place it up here, and there it is. And I'll jump over into the text area, and there it is. I'm going to change the ID for this guy so that it's a little bit easier to understand to amount, text view. And you can see here exactly how the alignments work in relative layout. Here we're going to align parent top true, align parent right true, and align parent end true. That's how everything's going to be based off of inside of our parent. This guy's going to be arranged. I'm going to get rid of EMS here. Input type, you can see that automatically set it for me for number decimal because that's what's going to be put inside of there. And I'm also going to put in some default text in here. So just go text, and then I'm going to put 1.0 inside of there. And that's all I'm going to do with that. Next up, I have to put the spinner inside of here. So there's the spinner, a little drop down, and we're just going to drop it in here like that. For the width, I'm going to have this be match parent, so that it fills all the space available. Wrap content's fine for the height. For the ID here, I'm going to have this be unit type spinner because it's going to contain all the unit types. There we go. And every single time you do this, it might align these differently in regards to what other widgets that are on the screen or the parent that surrounds it and how it's going to be aligned that way relative. So these are relative layouts, just like we said before. And then what I want to do is get a grid layout and put it underneath here, and that is where all of the units are going to go. So your grid layout's here, and of course it's just going to align everything using rows and columns. And I'm going to have this be set fill parent for both of those. If we jump over into the text area, you can see there is our grid layout. Then inside of here, we need to define the number of columns and rows that we have. And how you do that is column count. And in this situation, I have 2 columns. And then for our rows, just type in row count, and I'm going to have 6 of those. So we're going to have a total of 12 possible units inside of this little grid layout we have right here. Also going to want to define my orientation, and in this situation, that's going to be horizontal. And then I'd also like to come in here and define padding, and I'm going to make this 15 dp. Also like to give this a color. Jump back over inside of here, and that's going to be in background. There's background right there. There we go. Click here. And then we can define our colors just by clicking on color right there. And then you can drag around and pretty much pick whatever you want. And I'm thinking that looks perfectly fine, so I'm going to click on OK. And there you can see it changed. And now what I need to do is put all the text views in for all of the different unit types. I actually find this a little bit easier to just do inside of here because of code completion. So that's the way I'm going to do it. So we're going to go text view, and inside of this guy I'm going to define an ID. And the very first thing I'm going to have on here is going to be teaspoon text view. And then the text that I'm going to put inside of this is going to be, I'm going to define something here, 1.0. I'm going to say teaspoon, and then of course I can come in here and click on that, extract string resource, and say something like default teaspoon value. Click OK. And I can define my text appearance also in here. And here I'm just going to say Android, text appearance, medium, layout width. And I'm going to have this be wrap content because we want to have 2 on a row there. Layout height, and I'm going to have that be wrap content as well. Layout gravity, I'm going to have it be arranged from left and also top. And then if I want to put a margin on it as well, I can do layout margin, right. And I'm going to put 30 dp, see how that looks. And layout margin bottom, and I'm just going to put 30 dp in there just because I did that way before. Alright, so there is text view, and if we move this out here, you're going to see there it is. So it looks pretty good. And if you're wondering where the 1.0 comes from, what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be using the teaspoon as the base, as you're going to see here in a minute. And everything else is going to be converted to all the other different units based off of teaspoon. So if I want to change from cups to gallons, what I'm going to do is I'm first going to change cups to teaspoons, and then, let's see, where's gallons? There's gallons right there. Then I'm going to convert from teaspoons to gallons. And that is the way that I'm going to do this because it makes the most sense and it keeps everything very flexible and nice. Alright, so let's jump back and keep designing. Alright, so after I do these first 2, I'll be able to copy and paste them. So the next thing I'm going to do, because it lines up really nice, are the cups. So I'm going to go ID, cups text view, and the default text is going to be 0208, and I'm going to say cup. Text appearance, I'm going to use exactly what I used up here. Just paste that there. And then I'm also going to do the layout gravity. And for this one, I'm going to use the same one. I'm just going to go left top. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste these guys right here. And then I'll have all of my different rows and columns. And there you can see is everything all lined up, and the reason why I have space over here is because this is going to come out to 4 decimal places, and I just want to make sure that I don't push those off the side of the screen. Might work, might not work, but whatever. That's just part of the creating everything 100% out of my head like I'm doing right now. Okay, so now I'm back over into this little use case, and I'm going to continue thinking my way through exactly what I need to do next. So this is going to be 2 because we got activity main done, and I have all the code in the description. So what I want to do up next is set up the main activity. And how I'm going to do this, what I'm going to have to do is first I'm going to have to initialize my spinner and my editable text box and also all my text views. What else am I going to have to do inside of there? Inside of onCreate, I'm going to have to do something here. So let's just go in onCreate and put this here instead. I'm going to add items to the spinner, and you're going to see how I'm going to do that here in a second. And then inside of that, more specifically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an array adapter using a string array resource. So you're going to see how those string array resources work out. And to do that, make strings.xml. See, I get real detailed. I cover pretty much everything here. Also, find the layout to use with my spinner, which is just going to be a default layout. And then I need to connect the adapter to the spinner, and that's pretty much it that I can think of right there. I'm also inside of onConnect, I'm gonna have to, or onCreate, I'm also going to have to come in here and add a listener to the spinner. Also, I'm going to use set on item selected listener for my spinner. And you'll remember this stuff after you make a couple hundred Android applications. It's just something that eventually just starts to stick in your head. Another thing I may or may not do, and in those situations I'm just going to put a note here. Maybe check if I am going to use a base class for the unit conversion, which I'm pretty much positive. What I mean by that is I'm going to use teaspoon as my base class and convert everything from teaspoon. So everything eventually becomes a teaspoon and then becomes whatever else it wants to be. Alright, it'll make more sense whenever I do it because you're going to see the tiny amount of code it's going to take to create literally infinite numbers of different types of unit types. And I'm also going to get the value in the editable text box, which is going to be, whatever they put in, 1.0 teaspoons, whatever. And then I'm also going to come in here and initialize the text views. Okay, so now that I have that all set up, let's jump back over and do it. So here we are. Just need to go into mainActivity.java and what I say I need to do here. Alright, so what I'm going to need to do is come in here and I'm going to create my spinner, and I'm also going to come in here and create my editable text box, and I'm going to call it amount text view. I'm then also going to create a text view for every single one of the different unit types. Then get down inside of here in onCreate and do all the other things that we talked about in our little list of things that we need to do with our application. Now the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of modulize everything, and I'm going to fill my spinner with the unit type options that I have available. What I'm going to do first off is go over into values right here, and I'm going to create a new file inside of here, and this is where all of my different unit types are going to be stored that are then going to be pulled into our little spinner. And I'm going to call this guy conversion types.xml. There that is. And whenever you are creating these, XML version equal to 1.0, and my encoding is going to be equal to UTF-8. You're going to call this resources, or put these between resources tags, and then inside of that you're going to put a string array, and I'm just going to give it the name of conversion types. And then what we need to do is list out every single item that we are going to use in our little spinner. Item, and then you're going to go teaspoon, and then create one of these for every single one of these guys. So we're also going to do tablespoon and all of the rest. Then we're going to save those. Oh, and of course, make sure you come up here and put a question mark. Alright, so everything's all set up for our resources for our spinner. Back into main activity. Then I'm going to fill my spinner once again, like I said. So I'm going to add items to unit type spinner. Sounds like a good name for a function. I'll create this function here in a second. Another thing I'm going to need to do, like I documented in a use case, is add listener to unit type spinner. Create that function. I need to come in here and get my data that was entered into the editable text box and find view by ID, and that's at r.id.amount text view. And then I'm also going to initialize my text views all in one function, just so I can keep everything all separated. Okay, so if I want to set this guy up, first off, I like to keep everything modular when I really write program in the real world. It's a little bit different than what you guys normally see. So I'm going to go public void, initialize text views, and then I'll do the first one here. So the teaspoon text view, of course, I need to cast it to a text view, and then I'm just going to do find view by ID again, and r.id. And then I called this teaspoon text view. Got it? And then just speed everything up, I went and put in all the other ones there for you. And that's all I'm going to do with initialize text views. Now I got to handle, which one? Add items to unit type spinner. That looks good. Let's go and create that. Public void. There we go. And now you're going to see how to create an array adapter for our spinner. So first I need to get a reference to my spinner. So I'm going to go unit type spinner, and I can do a find view by ID again. I'm going to RID, and this is unit type spinner. So now that I got that, I'm going to be able to create an array adapter using the string array we just created with, remember it said teaspoon, tablespoon, all that in it. Here, this guy right here, I'm going to put this in a spinner. An array adapter is going to be used to do just that. And this is going to be a character sequence. There that is. And I'll call this unit type spinner adapter. I want to keep these names really detailed. At least that's what I like to do, so I know exactly what's going on. And then you need to go array adapter, create from resource. There that is. And then the resource that we are going to use, well, first off, we have to put in this, which is a context, so that we know what's going on and all the things needed are available. And then to get that array, we're just going to come in here. You can't see it. See, R array. And then I just specifically say conversion types. And then on the next one, we have to just give it a default simple spinner type thing, layout to put it inside of. And I'm going to use Android R layout dot and simple. And I specifically want the spinner, and there's the spinner item, and there you go. Got that all set up. Now I need to specify the layout to use when the list of choices is going to appear. So I'm going to go unit type spinner adapter, and I need to go set drop down view resource. You can see it comes up there for me, and I'll go android.r.layout. And I'm just going to go simple, sure that's lowercase a, and there it is, drop down item. It popped up for me. You think I memorize these things? I don't. I just know when to use the simple type one unless I'm creating my own layout, so that's what I do. Then I need to apply the adapter to my spinner. I just go unit type spinner and set my adapter. There that is. And then I give it unit type spinner adapter. And there that is. All set up, and that is how easy it is to take that array and then put all of those different unit types inside of our spinner. Pretty simple. And then the final thing I'm going to do in this part of the tutorial is come in here and fix add listener unit type to spinner. And then in the next one I'll finish up everything. So this is just going to be public void again. There we go. It's not going to receive anything. It's basically just a utility little method that we have here. And I'm just going to go unit type spinner equal to get access to this guy. Find view by ID.
and it is r.id dot unit type spinner. There we go. And then I'm going to go unit type spinner again, set on item selected. We're going to use the selected for our spinners. I'm going to go new on item selected listener, and you can see it was nice enough to generate everything for me, and this is going to handle everything whenever they collect or select anything in the spinner. First thing I'm going to do is get the item that was selected, item selected, and I'll call this in spinner because that makes sense. And to get it, just go parent dot get item, and I'm going to rename adapter view to parent so that this makes a little bit more sense to me. Come down here, get item, at position, and then I'm going to use this guy right here. I is going to be the selection inside of our spinner. Change that to pause because it makes more sense to me again. And then I'm going to convert this to a string. Another thing I'm going to want to do here is, I remember in the note I said check if I want to use base type in regards to having the teaspoon be the base type that we convert from and to. And I'm going to create this guy, and I'm going to pass the item that was selected to it. And once again, I'll show you that in the next tutorial. And then down here on nothing selected, we could come in here and do something like to do, and maybe something here later. Okay guys, so that's all I'm going to cover right now. In the next part of the tutorial, I'll finish the conversion app totally. Please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.